Welcome back, MTG Joe here. Today we are going to look at some deck lists from the first day or so of Standard. So normally what we do on the channel is we look at weekly meta breakdowns where we look at win rates, the top performing decks. We look at trends in terms of the meta for each format on MTG Arena. It's only been a day. We don't have a large amount of data. We get the data typically from Untapped, which you see here. From Bronze to Mythic, we only have 15,000 games played so far of Standard Best of 1. Not nearly enough for best of 3 right now to pull up anything. So what we're going to do is primarily just look at what some stuff folks are playing, what people are trying out, just to give you some ideas early on. As soon as I can get a conclusive enough data set to do actual win rates, then I'll highlight that. The only real ones for the most part that are showing win rates are mainly decks that haven't changed. So people are just playing their old standard decks. You'll see mono white, mono black, mono blue, Selesnya enchantments, kind of unchanged. So a lot of these, I won't be able to vet the efficiency of them, but just giving you ideas to share some lists of things you could potentially play, especially if you've cracked packs and you're ready to open the cards. But yeah, starting, as soon as I can get the data, we'll do these weekly again. Every week we'll look at the top performing decks and you can kind of see from there. So definitely subscribe if you're interested in this type of stuff. It's always good information. We kind of highlight trends and stuff like that. So mono black, we have this version here. It's a non-invoke despair. I think not playing invoke is still wrong, but there's a few new cards that are being tried out here. This one's got a 54% win rate. Again, this is bronze to mythic. We usually look platinum to mythic, but I wanted to have enough of a sample size here. So really just kind of focusing on the new cards. We have Go for the Throat being played. So this is targeting non-artifact creatures. So generally with these 2 mana black removal spells, there's always some sort of trade-off. Infernal Grasp deals 2 damage. Cast down targeted non-legendary. Go for the Throat is target non-artifact creature, which hits a lot of the stuff, but like it doesn't hit Bankbuster, doesn't hit the Mishra Foundry because it's an artifact, doesn't hit Fleshgorger. So there are some cards that still don't get hit by it. We also see Misery Shadow here, 2 mana 2/2. If a creature would die that an opponent controls, it's exiles instead, and for a mana it gets +1/1 till end of turn. So a good late game mana sink. So we still have elements of aggro with like the Cult Conscript, Evolve Sleeper, Tenacious Underdog, Misery Shadow. We have Yawgmoth Praetor, 3 mana 3/3. Whenever you deal combat damage to your opponent, each creature that does gets you to draw a card and you lose a life. I was playing a mono black deck, started with 3 of these, slowly cut them down. A lot of the boards get gummed up. It's hard to kind of push through damage, and it doesn't do anything on its own the turn it comes down. We still have underdogs, still have Lily in the deck. There's quite a few control decks I was running into yesterday. Today's been a lot more creature-based. The Fleshgorgers have been very, very good. I was playing 4 of. A lot of decks that could support it, I'm playing 4 of. Early game, it's a 3 mana 3/3 lifelink Menace. Somewhat hard to kill. The Menace is actually really relevant in terms of racing, especially with this much removal. You can usually control your opponent's board. We got some copies of Sheoldred. And the Mishra's Foundry has been a really nice addition in terms of the mana base for these monocolor decks, to just be able to have a creature land again into the decks. Then we go to Esper. There's so many ways to build Esper. This particular one is highlighting some of the new cards. We have Teferi Temporal Pilgrim. This card's been pretty impressive every time I've cast it, or it's been cast against. Its loyalty goes up like crazy every time you draw a card. The creatures it makes with the -2 are super relevant. Vigilance plays around Wandering Emperors, lets you attack and block. This could be used in combat tricks a lot, like you could cycle a land, you could draw off Bankbuster. There's a whole bunch of ways to draw cards. Pair that with like stuff like Rafine. You have Eiganjo of Synthesis. 2 mana 2/3, enters battlefield, draw, discard, and then if you draw 2 more cards a turn, it gets +1/0 and Menace. So the trigger of the Connive from Rafine also triggers it, so it's a nice kind of combo there. You see Go for the Throat in addition to like your typical Wedding Announcement, or Tie, Sheoldred, all that jazz. Notably as well, we do have copies of Underground River in this list, the new Dimir Painline that was missing before. We also have a Lord of the Third Path, 3 mana 2/1, enters the battlefield, destroy artifact or enchantment, and you and target opponent each draw a card. So late game can just give you some card advantage as you're kind of trying to grind through. We then have Rakdos Mishra. So this card missing here is, and I'll paste these deck lists by the way, so you don't have to worry about copying them. So this is the meld with Mishra. So this is the Dragon Engine. The 3 mana 2/2 first strike, or sorry, 2/2 double strike unearth. That if you unearth it from your graveyard, discard your hand, draw 3 cards. So you're kind of melding it with Mishra in this deck. It's kind of a Rakdos midrange. Just a lot of removal, some early threats. You're seeing 3 Gix in here as well. Just trying to draw some cards through that. I tried with Akiba in early access in a monoblock shell. It's a little slow, but the menace can be relevant. Some burn downs on the top end as well with this particular list. Then we have Naya. This is kind of Naya cheat stuff into play. So we have Chaotic Transformation, 6 mana. Exile up to 1 target artifact, 1 target creature, up to 1 enchantment, 1 planeswalker, and 1 land. For each permanent exiled this way, its controller reveals cards from the top of the library until they reveal a card that shares the type. So basically what you're trying to do is cheat into play either Portal to Phyrexia or Titan of Industry, kind of your top end threats. So you take stuff like a wedding announcement token or a treasure token, anything like that kind of mixed in. We also see just like a 3 mana burn spell that makes a Power Stone token. So it's really just kind of cheating in these big spells in kind of a combo tokeny style. And then ideally you start copying stuff with Fable the Mirror Breaker. We then have a Boros kind of Magecraft style deck. So we got the printing of Monastery Swiftspear. So we're pairing that, just a whole bunch of pump spells. Lauren's Escape is a new one. Target artifact or creature gains hexproof and indestructible on the turn. So protection, both from destruction and from like targeted exile. Then you have your usual like Ancestral Anger, Homestead Courage, Kumano can pump your team. The Escort can make a creature indestructible that has a counter on it. So stuff like Electrostatic Infantry, which gets bigger. Take Up the Shield puts counters on stuff. Virtuoso gets counters. So a lot of ways to kind of get that, like kind of push through the damage. This mana base isn't ideal. Just cut this Thran Portal, play another Sundown Pass in here. I'd probably play like 1 or 2 of the creature lands as well. The Mishra's Foundry. Because you have a lot of cards that you want to target. So it has some value. Playing these on the top end actually isn't too bad either. You may want just some more copies of that mixed in. We then go to, it's pretty much blue-white soldiers. Jeskai, the only red card is Baird, Argarvian Recruiter, that lets you create more copies of soldiers. If a creature you control has power greater than its base power, there's a lot of ways to do that, like Valiant Veteran, Jotun, Tactician, the Siege Veteran. So this is just kind of a soldiers tribal. There's a lot of incidental soldiers in like Dennick, Guardian Nubenalia, Thalia kind of mixed into that as well. You also get access to the Fortified Beachhead to take advantage of the dual land that comes into play untapped, but also as a late game mana sink. We then have an Is It Prowess deck. So we got a couple of cards. Like I said, we have the Monastery Swiftspear, but we're also got kind of Young Pyromancer-esque card, Third Path Iconoclast. Is It colors, whenever you cast a non-creature spell, you get a 1/1 colorless soldier artifact token. So with this deck, you're just looking to cast a bunch of spells for cheap, protect your stuff, kind of tempo out your opponent, and then get a whole bunch of pumps with Balmor mixed into it as well. Again, this is a deck I'd probably play like 1 or 2 copies of the creature lands just to take advantage. We then have a Sultai Self-Mill deck. And give me a sec, I gotta sneeze. Nope, never mind. I lied. But this is... excuse me. So you're kind of self-milling with this deck. So you have Titania, Voice of Gaia. You have the Titania land here. The first day, it takes a while for it to load. Kind of an odd inclusion of stuff. Like you see Silver Scrutiny, 1 Terra Sunder. Curate can put cards into your graveyard nicely, but like 1 Devious Cover-Up doesn't really make much sense. Probably like trim these cards, play some more removal, kind of just trim up those items, but really what you're trying to do is meld the Titania from your graveyard. Slogurk cares about lands going to your graveyard. There's a number of ways. You should be playing the green Saga Curlin probably. So I'd probably say like there's an idea here. I wouldn't craft this deck. It's very unrefined, I'd say. You're playing a lot of these which don't make much sense. The mana base is pretty bad. You know what, I'll include the deck export, but I don't think this deck's very good. And then lastly, this was a kind of cool Is It deck. So you have Fires of Victory. So it's an Iconoclast and then Sky Strike Officer. So the officer, when it attacks, makes artifacts soldiers. And then this makes artifact soldiers as well. So you kind of get that synergy there. You pair with Saheeli, which can let you draw cards, gives you an anthem, and then makes more Thopters and stuff. And then it's just kind of a tempo shell. Lots of kind of burn, bounce, counters. Disruptive Portal gets cheaper in this deck, only costs 2 mana, so it's counterspell. So it's kind of some cool elements with this deck here. That's probably something I'd try out as well. So that's it for the week. Let me know in the comments what you've been playing. I was trying out a few different things. I was running a Monoblock deck. I was trying out like blue-white control. This burn deck's actually been pretty good. I'm like 7-2. I was playing a bit on mobile. Big red, as much as I try, is not working out the way I want it. Monoblock had some awkward games with it, but the Razor Slash Transmogrant has been pretty good. I'll just link my profile if you want to copy any of these lists, but I've really just been kind of fooling around with stuff, seeing what works. This blue-white control deck's been pretty sweet, just like really going in on Teferi. I'm trying out like an Urza in here as well to see how that works out, but it's mainly winning with Teferi and Wandering Emperor, and then just killing and answering anything. The Soul Partition's been pretty good in blue-white control. But yeah, so like I said, we do these weekly. Make sure to subscribe if you want to get all the updates in terms of when each format. We'll look at like Explore, Historic, all that when it becomes available. And if you can, drop a like and a comment on the video. It's free and it helps out the channel. Thanks for watching. Hope you have a great one and stay safe out there.